Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good golly, Miss Molly. Welcome to that 70s rock fan. I thought I'd do a little member video to thank all of you for being members of the channel and for supporting me. And just have a little chat with you guys. And at the end of this video, there will be my new video and live stream outro, which will feature, amongst other things, a list of channel members. Painstakingly produced outro using my limited skills. And anyway, we'll see what that looks like in use, in action. But yeah, thanks very much all of you for your support of the channel and watching the videos and taking part in live streams and for being channel members. It is very important, given the support of the channel is great to help keep it going and help me be able to keep it going and to eat the occasional meal. So thank you. So I wanted to talk today about a little something I spotted for the first time. I don't know why I'd missed it, because it's no secret that I grew up with as a cultural phenomenon, and I'm a big fan of the Beatles, unhip as that may be to many people. Hey, well, I can't help it. It's my age, and I've got a big collection of Beatles stuff. But there was an infographic I saw the other day in a local paper, which I hadn't seen before, and I thought it was quite interesting. So I just thought I'd talk about it a little. And it's this, somebody did this analysis of the Beatles infographic a few years ago. This isn't new, but it's the first time I'd seen it. Breaking down the songwriting, who did what and what the songs were about, and just stats, the kind of stats you'd see applied to all sorts of sports things or whatever, but this time somebody sat and did it all for the Beatles, and I'm quite into the numbers game like this. So first thing I noticed when I looked at it, though, is it's a US centric one, in that it talks about the US album releases and US hit song releases as opposed to UK. The Beatles themselves were never very keen on the slicing and dicing Capitol did on the early US releases, which were very different from the definitive British albums. But anyway, leaving that aside, the songs in totality are the same songs, just distributed differently across albums. So looking at their career, this is from 1964 to 70, so it's not counting any of the earlier songs they wrote that appeared on things like the Hamburg recordings or Decca sessions, and it's not counting anything done after 1970, such as anthology stuff. And fair enough. So it's just taking the body of their main published work, whilst they were active from the time they signed with Parlophone, EMI, Capitol onwards. 310 songs released as a group, 235 of those written by one or more Beatles, because they did do, particularly early on, a lot of cover versions of old rock and roll stuff, particularly. I hadn't quite realized there was quite that gap between the self-written ones. It's a gap of something like 75 songs. So this has broken it down. First of all, it's a number of things in this. First of all, their biggest hits. And as I could see looking at it, these are singles that were released in the US as opposed to the UK. But it's quite nicely allowing you to just hover over them and see what they were, right up to the Long and Winding Road. The first one there, All My Living. So looking at who wrote most of their songs, I think what they've done here is, because every Lennon and McCartney song was a Lennon and McCartney song, but certainly it became more obvious which had been the main writer in later years. Who was the main writer? Some of the early ones are a little bit more of a joint effort, but pretty soon they diverged into mainly John or mainly Paul. So I guess somebody's done that analysis here. And it's interesting because when you look at the stats, John wrote most of the songs. He wrote 31% according to this. If you look at the distribution of that, a lot of that was earlier on. So albums like Help were almost exclusively John songs with a couple of Pauls or a few Pauls, more John. Later on, Paul became more predominant. Given that they're focusing on the infographic on singles, you can't just focus on the album. Gives you a slightly misleading picture, in my view, because you can't branch out and look at songs that were not hit singles here. But anyway, so it's quite neat the way that somebody's done it, though. They've sliced and diced it like this. So George ended up writing 12% of the Beatles catalogue, although he was a slower starter than the others. He did sing more than that, but some of the early songs were cover versions that he sang. The same with Ringo. So Ringo, despite singing at least one song per album, only actually has 3 writing credits, which I think are Octopus's Garden, Don't Pass Me By. What was the other one? Even I can't remember, and I'm a huge Beatles fan. What was Ringo's third one? Was it Don't Pass Me By? That would be it. Don't Pass Me By. I had to think about that, which is a great song. So he only wrote 3. Oh, no, he has a co-credit on Flying. So maybe that's the one they're thinking of. So there's a bit of a discrepancy there. I'll have to check on that. He did co-write the instrumental Flying on Magical Mystery Tour. So McCartney 29%, Lennon 31%, Harrison 12%, Ringo. It's so little that he's not actually got a blue line on any of these. Although I thought Octopus's Garden was a single in the US. Maybe not. Interesting distribution, though. According to this, in America, 8 of the band's last 11 number 1 hits were mainly Paul written songs. And 2 of those last 11 were also George's. So John had checked out quite a bit by then. But what are the most of their songs about? Love is the most common lyric used in all Beatles songs. It was used 312 times in 42% of their songs. I think what I find interesting about that is that whilst love was mentioned many times in their songs, often it wasn't partner romantic love. Very often it was, but later on there was stuff like All You Need Is Love, which was more of a general use of the term. So, but they've also split this into which words are the most common for them. So John, he had the word love 121 times. Paul 79 times. But then they've broken it down into other words that appeared very often. So the word yeah, for instance, she loves you, yeah, 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 is 54 times in the joint Lennon and McCartney ones, which could be considered true joint ones, 14% of the songs. Luckily, they haven't excluded the words like the and other very common words here. Will is an interesting one, 63 times in McCartney songs. 39% of the songs include the word will. Mine appears 30 times in Harrison songs. or 44%. So I, me, mine, for instance. Which songwriter has the largest vocabulary? It's a fascinating one here. Their songs average 65 unique words per song. There's some little issues with this infographic. It doesn't quite show certain things. So let's see what that means. So good morning contains 105 unique words. I am the walrus, 117 unique words. What are the least? I Want to Be Your Man, which is an interesting track, written by Lennon McCartney, sung by Ringo on their first UK album, Please Please Me, but also given to the Rolling Stones to give them their first sizable hit in the UK before they started recording and writing their own material. So 17 unique words, that's not very many, you know, if you think about it. The most simple song. Wild Honey Pie is not the most civil. Written by McCartney and contains 6 unique words, mainly because there's not really a lot of lyrics on Wild Honey Pie. I Want You, She's So Heavy, 12 unique words. John's song, obviously. Taking a Trip to Carolina was written by Ringo and contains 12 unique words. It was featured on Let It Be, only pretty much as a jam, but I'm actually quite surprised it's included in here. So they're saying that the 3 Ringo songs are Don't Pass Me By, Octopus's Garden, and Taking a Trip to Carolina. I'm pretty sure Ringo has a co-credit on Flying, although that's an instrumental, so it wouldn't appear in here, but they're saying only 3. Hey, what do I know? Interesting if you look at if you were into this kind of stats, there's some really interesting stuff on here. The most unique words appears to be this 135 on Rocky Raccoon. But as you would expect, for each category of songwriter, it's kind of like a mean distribution. There's an average of around about 60, 61 for all of them. So I guess I wonder if that's normal for most rock songwriters. Anyway, interesting one. I'll play about with it a bit more, but I'm a little bit interested in the how they've divided up the songwriting. But it's always worth poking about it, and I'll put a link to this in the description. So if anybody wants to play about with it, I'd like to see this similar thing for some other long-running bands. But maybe it exists out there. So anyway, and you see they've got the albums. I just noticed that categorized too. As I say, everything up to Help was different. Help was the same in the US and UK. From Revolver onwards, everything was exactly the same, which is what the Beatles wanted. They didn't want the American stuff to be different. I mean, imagine chopping an album like Revolver up and putting it to different other albums, made-up albums, would have been insane. Anyway, thank you for watching this little member video about the Beatles. Great, fab. Hopefully I'll be doing a few more little bits and pieces of member video here and there. And if we get to a certain level of members, then I can start doing live member-only streams, which I will start working on that if we can reach a certain critical threshold so we can get enough people to do it. So anyway, have a great day. Look forward to seeing you all later in the week on the Wednesday live stream this week, which is going to be about Sabaton. So have a great week, everybody. Now I'll play the new outro, so hope you enjoy it.